The Hill is reporting that 11 House Republicans are now planning to vote no on the continuing resolution. Lawmakers have until September 30th to avert a government shutdown. Joining me right now is Pennsylvania Congressman Scott Perry. He is the chairman of the House Freedom Caucus and a member of the House Oversight and Foreign Affairs Committees. Congressman, thanks very much for being here, Mr. Chairman. I want to get your take on what the Freedom Caucus wants and how significant this continuing resolution is from your standpoint.
Well, thanks, Maria. Good morning. The Freedom Caucus's requests have been obvious since January. We want to drive the cost of government spending down. We feel like this government is way too big, it's unaffordable, and in many cases, it's weaponized against the very people that have to pay for it. That all having been said, this is not a continuing resolution in the classic sense, because the continuing resolution in that sense does exactly what it portends. It continues the policy. It continues the spending. This is more of a sequester. It's actually an 8% cut over the period of the time of the resolution. And it changes policy in that it requires the Biden administration to actually enforce border policy passed by the House of Representatives. As you know, Maria, this is a proposal that has come out. There are going to be critics, and this is where the discussions start. This is where the negotiations begin. And I imagine that we're going to start picking up some members as long as we're willing to have an open mind and try and get the number or the policy to where it suits them. I think we can do that, and I think we're going to do that. The alternative is actually just a complete continuation of the Pelosi-Biden spending and policy, or worse, or more of that policy and more and higher spending. Those are our two options.
So you are voting no, obviously, on this continuing resolution that Kevin McCarthy wants to bring to the floor on Thursday. How many no votes do you think there are?
Well, right now, I think that there are, like you said, a handful. You put up some of the names of those publicly claiming what their position is. But I think that there, is probably a couple more behind the wings that haven't made a public position that are thinking about it. But, Maria, you know, time and pressure are also heavy influencers on decisions. And again, this is going to come down to, do you want more of the Biden-Pelosi policy and money, or do you want less? And what is the cost of that, of less of that? If it's reducing those costs in the appropriations bills, so be it. If it's a longer sequester, so be it. But we've got to get down to brass tacks and have a negotiation and figure out how we put everybody in the same boat together and get rowing together in the same direction. That's what's going to occur over the next week and a half.
How do you get the White House to pull it in when you haven't been able to do so up until now? The spending continues. He wants to, you know, forgive student debt. That's just more stimulus out there, more money thrown into the system. What does the government shutdown get you?
Well, I don't know that a government shutdown gets us anything. And I, for one, would prefer to avoid that. I think we should have avoided that by passing all the appropriations bills at a righteous level with the correct policy in them. But I will tell you this, Maria, this always comes down to negotiation, whether that was done or not. It's like buying a car. The person selling the car wants a lot of money, and you have to come in and offer them a little money, and then you try and meet somewhere in the middle. That's the reasonable things to do. That's what's normally done in everybody else's daily life. That's what needs to happen here. But for that to happen, we need to come in at some level that is, that engenders a negotiation. If we come in at the higher level, there's not going to be any negotiation. You're just going to get the higher level.
So there is common ground on securing the border, correct? Where are the areas that you see? No? Okay.
Well, there's you mean common ground in the Republican conference on securing the border? I thought you meant common ground between the Biden administration. Yes, there's common ground on securing the border, for sure.
Okay. So where are there areas that there is not common ground in terms of the other spending? What's most problematic here?
The most problematic thing, it appears to me, is the top line, the total amount of spending. Many members don't necessarily care exactly where it comes from, but they feel like we are spending ourselves into debt. Understand, we now are going to be in a $2 trillion deficit just this year alone. And so even if you turn the curve down modestly, but any spending savings need to be realized, I think, before we're going to get to some kind of an agreement. So We started out this year being very clear. We wanted to get to pre-COVID non-defense discretionary spending levels. That's where we've been all along. I think if we got there, we would have the votes immediately. We just haven't been able to get there, and we haven't been able to get there so far this year. But like I said, time and pressure are strong influencers at coming to an agreement.
Yeah, no, I think you make some very important points, and I know that the debt is a major issue, but where does that money come from? Where do you cut back on, knowing that 2/3 of the budget are, essentials?
You're right about that, but I will tell you this, Marie, and I think your viewers know this, the pandemic spending for the non-defense discretionary, the discretionary things we have, not defense and not Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, but the other things, the Department of Justice, Homeland Security, the CDC, you name it, they all went up to 40 and 50% during the pandemic. What has gotten better in our world, in the United States of America, with all this spending during the pandemic? And oh, by the way, the pandemic's over. We're not at war. So why do we continue to think, or why do we think we need to continue to spend at that higher level? Just go back to the pre-COVID spending levels, even with a modest inflation rider for that period of time, and I think we would get there. But we need to be willing to do that, and some of our colleagues yet have not seen the light on that.
Well, I mean, this is exactly the issue that I was talking about months ago when you had the 15 rounds of Kevin McCarthy getting his job. And I said back then, how are you going to ensure that Chuck Schumer is not just going to take this and run with it and keep the spending that's in place, Nancy Pelosi's playbook? How come the appropriations bills are not done? You had all year.
Well, you're absolutely right. And that is one of the sticking points in this negotiation. Many of the members who want to vote no on any kind of package moving forward are saying the only thing that we should be voting on is the appropriations bills. That was the promise. That was the agreement. I certainly don't disagree with them. I was part of crafting that agreement. Unfortunately, I'm not in charge of that. And so while I don't agree with where we are or how we got here, here is where we are. And the reality is we have two choices: either spend more and get the terrible policy, or spend less and try and get some decent policy. Those are really our only two options. And so we're going to have to find a way out of this together, or the worst is going to be the only option available.
So you want to get the remaining appropriations bills over the finish line, individual bills, rather than a overall continuing resolution. Does that 30 days not give you the wiggle room to do that?
Well, that's the plan. That's exactly right. That is what the 30 days. It doesn't fix the wasted time of the past, but acknowledges that you have this short period of time. You've got to get these things done. You absolutely have to get these things done.
So
and
why,
again,
so
it's
why
pressure
vote no
and it's
then?
time.
So then why vote no on that short term?
I didn't say I was a no vote, but many members are. Unfortunately, I think this is the only game in town. The question is what is the dynamic? What is the mix? What is the recipe that is in? Maybe it's more than 30 days. Maybe it's 120 days. Maybe it's an extra 100 billion less, which would be fine with me. I asked for the 100 billion less that we don't get, that we're not currently getting. But remember, we have the other side of our conference to agree on these things, too. And so far, they're not in agreement with that. So that's the conundrum we're trying to solve, and I think we will solve.
I'm with Doug Collins this morning from a colleague. Doug, jump in here.
Hey, good morning, Congress. Good to hear.
Yeah.
One of the questions is that earlier on we passed some of the appropriation bills and they brought them to the floor back in July. They were the new numbers, not the agreed upon debt ceiling numbers. They were actually the lower numbers.
Right.
But yet we still couldn't get the votes for those bills. Ag had to be pulled because of appointments. Scott, you and I have been doing this a long time. Does that not frustrate you when you get the numbers that you're looking for, knowing it's going to have a hard time other places, but not even getting it there and you couldn't even get those to the floor? Are we not seeing enough long-term picture here in some of these votes? Does that concern you going forward?
Well, of course it concerns me, Doug, but you know how Washington math is. And so while they wrote to the actual number, then they added rescissions back in. So the number that they're advertising isn't the number we're getting, which is why you saw the no votes. If they would just be honest and say, we're getting to the lower number, no gimmicks, no crazy stuff, no Washington math, I think the votes would be there. But quite honestly, the number is false advertising.
false advertising. But Congressman, right now you're talking about a situation that the government will likely shut down. What are the odds of that?
Well, we have a little bit of time and understand it's not just the House of Representatives. The Senate's involved in this, too.
Exactly.
They're not moving their appropriations bills either. So as long as that goes hour by hour and day by day, the odds, unfortunately, go up.
So even if you have success in terms of doing these final appropriations bills individually,
right,
you're still at a stalemate when it goes to the Senate.
Right. We still are at a stalemate, which is why I think that we have to signal to the American people that we have paid the bills that are most important to them, things like the military pay, firefighters out west, those kind of things, disaster relief maybe. We've got to signal to the American people that we need this little bit of extra time. But in the meantime, we have paid the bills that are most important and most critical to keeping the government moving forward. And that's the mix that we're talking about trying to get to a place where we can have some success, have a negotiation with the Senate, and finally get this thing worked out.
Understood. Congressman, we'll be watching your work. Thanks very much for your leadership here.
Thank you, ma'am. God bless you.
All right. It's Congressman Scott Perry.